Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last day of Neptune in Pisces. My little brain, because tomorrow Neptune will move into Aries for 14 years and not see its homeland again for another 165. Pretty significant. And we have a powerhouse of planets in Aquarius. I mean, the Aquarian energy is on fire this week and next even. So, welcome, my Kyoto. Good to see you. So my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. And what that means, because I've had somebody ask me a couple times in the comments, is that I use my intuition rather than just the structures that have been built for the planets, for the aspects. So I combined them. I allow my intuitive skills to drive the interpretation. And this week, I think there's a lot to talk about because the stellium, the powerhouse of planets in Aquarius, is calling for a vision of the future. It's calling for the strategy of that, the planning of it, and not just for ourselves, but for how it will affect the collective. And when I say the collective, I don't necessarily mean, from here to Australia or from Australia to Europe. I mean how it affects the collective environment of energy that we walk through. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the powerhouse in Aquarius. I'm going to touch again a little bit on Neptune entering Aries. And we have Saturn, following next month, starting, it's going to be at 29 degrees any minute. I have videos on both of those. Small plug there. Watch those. And then I'm going to pull a tarot card and do an angel spread for each sign, starting with the birthday sign, Aquarius. So Aquarius, you are in the spotlight this week. Small Wildflowers will not be with us this morning. She's had a very hard week. For those of you that are unaware, hey, J-Dog, great to see you. So if you would help in the comments with your own sign, putting the timestamp, that would be super helpful. Oh my goodness, I'm really glad that you're alive and that you haven't fallen down. That ice, it can be treacherous. Yeah, be careful. I'm sure, you stockpiled the fridge too, keeping my fingers crossed for that. So anyway, your prayers are always appreciated for Small Wildflowers, that her body comes back into balance and that she can resume her life as scheduled. So let's talk about what's going on, because the rebellious nature and energy. Hi, CC Pups. Oh, Central Texas. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys all got your supplies. Oh my goodness. All right. So there'll be prayers for all of you that are sort of in lockdown. It's so beautiful to look through the window and so treacherous when you have to be outside or go anywhere. I think that's why I'm kind of a Southern California girl. If it's raining too much, anyway. All right. We got to talk about this stellium in Aquarius. We've got Pluto at 3 degrees. We have Mars, and Mars in Aquarius, to me, this is a very natural energy. Now, Mars squares Scorpio. I'm sorry, Aquarius squares Scorpio. But even when you have a square, when the ruler of a planet has the natural energy of a sign, there is something synergistic about it. So what may happen is with Mars and in Aquarius, we could want to move into the future with too much impatience, or allow our anger to explode unexpectedly that interrupts our vision of the future. So we've got Mars in there, and Mars is going to be there for a while. I did a video on it. Check that out. The sun is there right now. Happy birthday to my Aquariuses. Venus is in Aquarius and Mercury. Mars will travel from 1 to 6 degrees. The sun will travel from 5 to 11 degrees. Venus will travel from 10 to 17 degrees. And Mercury will travel from 8 to 18 degrees. Your action, your ego, your sense of self-worth, and the way you think, they're all going to be triggered, okay? And triggered by a quincunx to Jupiter in Cancer. A quincunx is, it's very tense. It's like, to me, it's like a nagging, something's not right, but I can't put my finger on it, and it's creating great tension. And it almost feels like the collective of the Cancer energy, which would be home traditions, the way people think, worrying about other people, having to give of myself to others to nurture, would supersede the independence of what Aquarius is asking of me. And I think that because also Jupiter is about to station at 15 degrees and then move forward again in Cancer. So this is I would think it's a rebellious week. I think on some level we'll be thinking about our own self-worth, our value, how it's measured. What am I not only giving or getting from the collective, but what am I giving to the collective? I think this is super, super powerful. The Aquarian stellium to me is also right now a very much kind of, as Neptune moves into Aries tomorrow, is very much like, who is running the show here? Who is actually running my life? And I think the people are going to speak up and demand visibility. No longer want to feel exiled or under the control of something that appears to sound good for my future, but I know somehow on a soul level it's not right. It's not right. So I think that this is going to be pretty powerful. Now, Neptune, and I did a video on Neptune and Saturn, because the first, from February to April, are super powerful time, because this conjunction is going to start to separate. And I really want to offer that while a lot of people will focus on limitation and on restriction, this is an opportunity to really have the old habits of who you've been, or how you've viewed yourself, or how you have allowed your identity to be defined. Those two planets can erode an old story that's no bueno, an old story that doesn't fit, a shirt that's too tight that you've grown out of. Oh, well, now how do I say that? Is that Dr. Ishit? I don't even know. 2047. I don't know how to say that, but welcome to the room. I'm not doing individual questions today, but we will be doing readings for each sign. Let's talk about Neptune a little bit, because I want to cover this, because I think this is very, very important, because Neptune is going to be at 0 degrees from January 26th to February 27th, and then it'll move 1 degree. It's not moving a lot, but the idea that it's on the world axis, on this point in the Zodiac, which is about initiation, it's about the igniting of the you, the new you, the you that's always been living on the inside, but was never allowed to really express itself on the outside. This is the ingress, 0 degree. So we're looking at an initiation, a spark of fire. We also have when you look at Christopher Witecki's step system, and I think this is really pertinent here. The 0 degree is a Plutonian energy. It's a protective border around that which is important to you. And to me, this is a period of time of recalibrating, you could say reinventing, reestablishing your path to the future, your path to who you want to be and what you want it to be. Overall, with Neptune's entry into Aries, the Piscean energy is very much about being invisible, about supporting and being empathetic to the victim. That's a little of the shadow side of Pisces. Now the collective is going to shift into the reinvention of the self, but the victimhood, that's going to be eroded. The spiritual nature of Neptune is going to say, if I feel victimized in any way, I was in illusion and unaware in my physical apparatus of the power that I hold through my intention and my thought. I think what we're going to see are questions of who's actually leading my life. Am I playing to the information that I hear from others, the things I hear on the news. My body's going to break down. Remember, Aries rules the body. I mean, it rules the head. But as you come in, you're coming into a fresh new body. You're learning how to move that body around, which is why it rules competition, to stretch myself and see what I'm capable of. I also think that it's going to redefine what courage is. I don't think courage is going to be going into the fire and saving the kitty. And while that may be courageous, I think the courage is going to be in the self-identification. I think it's going to be a discernment. That doesn't sound right to me. I don't think I'm going to follow that. My mother used to say to me as a child, children are meant to be seen and not heard. And I thought, that's bullshit. Children are loud, noisy, they squeal. I mean, it literally shoots through your ears like a sword. And she used to say all these things that didn't make sense to me. She would say, do as I say, not as I do. And I thought, you're full of shit, lady. No offense to mothers everywhere. Mine just really didn't have that recipe for it. So this is part of the redefinition, is allowing things that seem mentally ill or not right or blurry or confusing to erode. And this is where Neptune's intuitive knowing stands so loudly and so clearly. But it's going to go against the tide, I'm telling you. And that's where the Aquarius stellium, because that stellium is calling for genius. It's calling for the genius of knowing that my thoughts are things. You know, my thoughts are actually creating a ripple effect of energetic resonance. So what I'm focusing in on, I'm bringing opportunities to discern whether I need that energy in my life anymore. Really, really, I mean, such powerful times. I'm just looking at my notes real quick to see if I forgot anything. Oh, this is the other thing I want to say. As you know, Saturn rules karma, it rules history, it rules wisdom garnished through choices, okay, and what we build. When you start to take the higher vibrations of Neptune at 0 degrees, I am initiating freeing myself and my personal will from karmic bad habits and instincts that have held me under. That I think is super powerful. And I think that is directly in relation to the quincunx to Jupiter. Hey DJ, good to see you. Songbird in the house. Okay, if you guys could help me with the timestamps, I'm going to try to be expeditious and not drift off too much. And then put that timestamp in the comment section of the live. I'd appreciate it, because I'm just not good at getting the timestamps, because weekends are a little bit of busy time for me. Thank God, because it was a slow time during the crisis period. Okay. All right, everybody, here we start with our Aquarians. Happy birthday, Aquarius. And I want to tell you, if you feel on fire this week, even though it's your birthday, but you know, all Aquarians and everybody who has strong Aquarius influence, Aquarius rising, Aquarius moon, you're going to feel this stellium. And it is like, literally, to me, I feel like I'm on a wild stallion and I'm holding on some level. All right, let's see what the card is for the week. The Queen of Swords. You know, Aquarius is in the tarot, the King of Swords. So here, I think this is really an interesting dynamic. The Queen can represent Libra, but here, I kind of think it's representing going to the beat of your own drum, Aquarius. And also, I want to comment that this is a peaceful energy. She looks quite at peace. She's aware of the potential icy terrain that she might have to traverse by herself. Very Aquarian, but she has no choice but to be herself. What are we talking about? We're talking about the birth of humanity and the individual leadership of the self. I'm going to self-govern. I'm not going to take a jab. I'm not going to take your drug that's going to make my eyeballs bleed and I'm going to feel sick. My nose might not run. I mean, there's these subtleties that when I hear these commercials on TV, I literally laugh. I guffaw at the absurdity of them. So a lot of that's going to get blown up over the next few years. And we are going to start to create that through our own awareness. So Aquarius, the Queen of Swords is your dominant energy. Go to the beat of your own drum. And then maybe that's your declaration for your solar return. not to succumb to those feelings of exile and awkwardness and anxiety. I think, I'm not going to deny that anxiety exists or that people have, certain mental challenges, but a lot of, to me, the exasperation of that is also an inner knowing that the soul is the primary captain or director of this experience, but it's been washed out. It's been dumbed down. And Aquarius, I think, more acutely than anyone, because it sits right next to Pisces and sandwiched between Capricorn. So there's that human structure of Capricorn, co-ruled Aquarius by Saturn. And then what it knows intuitively, if you think about Aquarius's future, is moving into Pisces. I hope all that made sense. So I'm moving into a spiritual place where I know my soul is the truth of my experience, the truth of my being energy. And this apparatus is just that. It is a functioning tool for the soul's expression. All right, Aquarius, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart. What is the Queen of Swords saying? Oh my goodness. I love it when these things happen. We have Xana, you're being protected. Desiree is saying you don't need to look any deeper into a situation. Caution does not need to be warranted, but strategic planning is absolutely genius. Yes, and there's Oceana, trusting that intuitive knowing. There's such a strong warrior energy in the Aquarian energy. And I want to say this, because Aquarius is of all the signs can be depicted from a human perspective to be the least emotional, right? Because it looks to the future. Therefore, it skips over the potential whining of the old structures breaking down. So here, let's see, we're adding our Camelot deck and see where we're going. But I think this is happy birthday, Aquarius. It's time to go to the beat of your own drum, to start to put in structures, to follow your heart's desires, to express yourself in your unique and genius way. And if indeed there are feelings of anxiety, I often think, as I was about to say, but I got distracted, that anxiety that's represented inside of Aquarius is that I'm denying the soul in some way. I'm too much focused on the collective's viewpoint of me, of the groups and the friends I hang out with, and if they like me or if I'm acceptable. And if I don't feel accepted, then that influences me in a way that is contrary or opposition to my soul. Rochelle is being joined by the hawk. The hawk is messages and omens. I literally think there are messages and omens. What does a drum do? It sends a message. The Native Americans and Native tribes everywhere use the drum to send out, when people were, that was the phone back in the indigenous days. So, oh, wow. All right. Xana is saying you're being protected, and it's being joined by the mystery card. The mystery card is always the choice card. This is where our free will comes in. So as you because the thing that Xana talks about is not just protection. She talks about protection from the past, protection from that which is behind you, and allow yourself to move forward. Now, Bridget being upside down, Bridget's a card of caution. Look deeper before you proceed, but she's reversed. There's no more need for reflection. There's no more need for looking forward. Because perception gets to shift. Perception, the awareness of perception, going back to your choice, going back to what are you choosing, and is it authentic to the beat of your own drum? And here's Oceana being joined by the trust card. Now this spread starts with the Queen of Peace. With the Queen of the Swords. The Queen of Swords is balanced. She's a bit unemotional as well. She's a bit, because she has to look at both sides and have a certain amount of empathy, but not like a Piscean empathy. It's more like a fairness and balance. Everything has its, the scales come in. Now the hawk is an 11. The trust card is a 47. They both reduce down to an 11. This takes me back to the Queen, which of Libra, the Queen of Thought. The 11s are the angel's number for moving forward, or you're, moving forward in the sense of I'm aware that my thoughts are things, and those things are manifesting. What I focus on, I'm creating. This is saying to trust your heart, to trust your ingenuity, to trust the ignition of who you are and who you want to be in this world. You know, how you want to and I want to offer this. I just distracted myself. When I looked at the Queen of Swords, I saw the mountains of ice. Many of you potentially will have opportunities, even as you age, through the internet or through technology to facilitate that heartbeat. So I want you to trust a bigger picture, and then you get to look for the signs and the omens as you walk through this week and walk through the subsequent weeks. That's pretty cool. All right. Let's go on to our Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. That puts the stellium in your 12th house. As we do these live broadcasts, I do them mostly in whole sign because everybody's chart is different, but I really like the Placidus house system. I don't really look at whole sign as being very accurate at all, because if you have a late degree rising sign, anything 20 degrees or later, your whole first house gets pushed practically up into the 12th house, and that has a whole different vibe. So I want to just encourage you to look at your houses, because if indeed your Aries Pisces border is in the middle of a house, it's almost like you have an opportunity for a new chapter within that house. So let's say, you know, as a Pisces, I hate to do that. Let me just, Aquarius is your 12th house. You have an opportunity through that stellium to have awareness and bravery into your old habits of your soul, and then allow the Neptunian and Saturn energy to dissolve those old habits and create new ones. All right, Pisces, your card for the week is your tarot card, the Ace of Wands, a new beginning, the beginning of fire, the beginning of passion, the beginning of creativity. Let's see where we're going. Pisces, really, you know, you're the end of winter, but you begin the springtime. You know, you think about it, March 20th, while it starts the Aries season, it's those last days of winter before that warmth comes in. Ooh, what do we got going on here? I think we've got a couple cards that want to be, I don't know what they are. The first is Astera, reach for the stars. The second is Yvonne. Okay, but she's reversed. We are on Pisces right now. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. In the angel's advice, we have Serena, the angel of abundance. And then finally, we have the angel Omega, representing victory. I really believe that as we move into this new age with Neptune in Aries, that our creativeness, our individual talents and genres of creativity, because you could be in finance, you could be in, you know, a mortuary, you know, funeral work. I don't care what it is. It's not just music and art. There's so much more to. I almost, as I started to say that, I almost intuitively felt saying that the whole human experience is one big creative endeavor that we don't recognize when we're in the human experience, because we're so busy trying to live and we don't live. So I think this is what's going on for Pisces. Astera says to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and don't compromise. And there's Merlin. There's magical Merlin creating justice and balance. And I really think wherever your Piscean energy is in your chart is being ignited, as Saturn is in those anaretic degrees of deciding, what am I really going to do? How am I going to be before I do? Because Yvonne is about vulnerability, but Yvonne is upside down right now, and she's being joined by the swan. So there's something about Pisces that might be, and you know, you're going through a hard time. I can't imagine that it's been at all easy for Pisces to have Neptune at that anaretic degree for months and months, just creating this demand to not dissolve. Don't dissolve, integrate. The swan is not the absence of the ugly duckling. The swan is the transformation of it. And then there's a fear of vulnerability here. Now we have Serena being joined by the harmonious wealth card. Okay, Serena is an angel of physical and material abundance, but that abundance comes from an inner knowing that all is well, that each chapter, even one that dips down and feels challenging, is part of building the resources to accept wealth, to accept harmony, to understand that you are transcending the physical, not leaving it. It's an integration of an awareness of the soul and the power of the soul versus the limitation of the human. And I really think that this is a birthing of you in a new creative way where you can still be compassionate, you can still be empathetic, but recognize that your own personal experiences is your greatest gift to others, because it represents what can happen when you step into that vibration of it isn't me or you, but rather the balance of me and you. The fish. Okay, and this is fun because what happens is there's victory over your mind. It's a new beginning for Pisces, and I think that when we think about just a whole sign, we're moving that Aries energy into your second house of self-worth, of your skills, of your being able to create resources and money through your own efforts and your own willingness to grow something. And in that, you have to stand in the sunshine because things need sun to grow. And Pisces likes to be in the dark. Okay, I'm going to shuffle the cards and move on to Aries. I watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Yes, I watch a lot of bad TV. And Kathy Hilton is the same age as I am, and she's born under the Pisces energy. And I always laugh because she's so Piscean. They talk about she's got Aries energy and moon energy, a Taurus moon. So she's very strong, but she's very Piscean in, like, she's up in the middle of the night banging around, or, she's off by herself in her room rather than doing what the other girls are doing on their activities. And because she's the queen madame, I think it's just kind of rather humorous how she plays out her Piscean energy. All right, let's go on. Welcome, Roselight77. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Welcome, everybody. Natalia, welcome to the room. Small Wildflowers isn't with us today. She had a very hard week, everybody. I think I never heard from her, and I'm reticent to encroach upon this time. I want to give her space, but she could use prayers. Hi, Firefly. Welcome. I love that, Firefly. I love that. That's great. Okay, let's move on to our Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Everybody, I also want to say this with the stellium and Aquarius this week. I think it's very important to be mindful of people that bug you, people that trigger you or grate on your last nerve, and just sort of do your best to do a little bit of this, because with all this Aquarian energy with Mars in there and Pluto right up against each other, there could be arguments, unexpected brawls, unexpected. I can't take this anymore, and quit your job. I mean, there's so many things that could really happen. Okay, let's look at our tarot card. Oh, Aries, the Lovers. Now, everybody always look, especially young girls, when they see this card, they get so excited. Yay, I'm going to get a boyfriend. This is a choice card. This is a commitment card. So let's look and see where Spirit wants you to make a choice and commit to it. The Two of Cups is a connection card. If you ever, when you're playing with the tarot, it's that sort of, ooh, I like you. It's, that enchanted song or enchantment song, whatever, from Taylor Swift. But here, the Lovers card is where we make the choice to stick around. Okay, Shanti, the angel of peace, is upside down, Aries. Desiree says conditions aren't favorable. Opal says you're a child of God. Be mindful of that. I think that's the peaceful warrior. And Isaiah is saying, as upside down, not a good time to. I would think with your ruling planet being in this stellium up against Pluto, it might be a time to be very aware. Wow, Aquarius moon, I kind of think can be a little bit hard, because Aquarius moon always kind of can see the bigger picture and can be a little bit, I say this lovingly, insensitive to the individual. because there are bigger problems in the world. But this almost looks like it's starting off for Aries to be like the peaceful warrior, or to pick your moments. And if there's a lack of tranquility, it's not a good time to start something new. Yes, please, you guys, prayers for her. She, I think she's had a very hard week. I think she's had a hard couple of weeks, actually. I'm worried a little bit. Oh, well, yeah, because they're about themselves a little bit. Aquarius moon they're very sensitive to their own feelings, but not always sensitive to somebody else's. No offense. We all have our good and bad. I've just, in the years I've been doing this, and as I see the patterns of people, it's so clear. You can almost guess it. Okay, Aries, Shanti is being joined by the focus card. So this is the reinvention that Neptune and Saturn are offering you, but most specifically Neptune over the next month. The 0 degree is totally an ignition. It is a spark. It is not an actual experience. It's like you're on Survivor and you're doing the flint, right? You haven't quite got the fire started, because the focus here might not be on tranquility. And this might be your old habit. This might be your old habit, is that I'm not really good at harmony or at peace. I will tell you, I am a warrior through and through. I have a lot of warrior energy in me, and my Mars is in Libra, which is not in the greatest place, but it also makes me a warrior for fairness, for people being just. And the world is not a just place. It requires contrast, because Desiree is saying conditions aren't good for Aries. And what I think that's talking about is there's the harmonious wealth card. I really think this is a choice to take inspired action instead of taking or being reactive, or being, you might be right, but will you be effective? Because Opal is asking you to focus in on being a child of God, and there's the Queen. I really think this is a choice of being the peaceful warrior, or the person who's right about whatever they're pissed off about, but you're not going to get anywhere, at least if you try to confront it in an old energy. The water fairy is here joining Isaiah. This is all this week. I think this stellium in Aquarius, for Aries rising, it's going to be in your 11th house. And so you may find people on the internet piss you off. Think about the comments you make. You may find people are dumbing down your dreams, or think that you're crazy because you're like, I'm going to win the lottery. And they're like, you're an idiot. But somebody wins the lottery, right? So maybe this might be an opportunity for Aries to take this time, and rather than trying to get the agreement or the posse or anybody else on board for your vision, just to keep your vision to yourself, and give the planets a little bit of a chance to disperse. They're not really going to disperse much. They're pretty much going to be clocking through Aquarius, Pisces, and ultimately you as well. But for now, I think it might be a good time to be more aware of self-peace, how you can do self-peace, self-harmony. I feel like I'm talking to myself. Hi, just call me C. Hi, Robin. Welcome to the room. Yeah, I really we really need prayers for, well, not need, but I think that would be super helpful for her. Prayer's a form of focus, Oh, Lulu's having a dream, everybody. She hasn't been dreaming as much since she's been living here. I can hear her now. When she has dreams, she makes little noises. She's really, we're on 3 months now that she's been here. And I think Lucky's been gone 3 months and 3 weeks. It's so weird. But at the same time, we're really jiving and getting along well. All right, Taurus. Taurus. This is a week to be flexible, be willing to go places, to be more than anything flexible. And the flow of money. The flow of money. This kind of makes me laugh a little bit when I look at it, because Taurus is like flexible. I'm silently not flexible. Because Taurus to me, you have to look at the combination to see how it expresses itself, because I have Taurus in Taurus is most of my first house. My moon is there. And my Aries nature, my second house being Gemini, makes me very talkative. It's my skill. So I'm not a quiet Taurian, but many Taurians, especially male Taurians, are quiet, and silently inflexible. I like this the way it is. I like the people, they may drive me crazy, but they're the crazy I know. I think that's very Taurus man, honestly. But anyway, here we go. Let's see what Spirit has to say. Because the thing also about this particular character in this deck is that she's riding the bike with no hands. She's able to move while being flexible. She's able to get forward. All right. Our first angel is Bridget, looking deeper into a situation. The second is Azure. Your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Rochelle is about trusting your heart, and it's about prosperity. And prosperity to me is not, money in the bank. It is the constant flow of resources, and money being one of them, that come to me easily and often so that I don't need to have strife or struggle. Isaiah is about new beginnings. All right, so this is the opportunity for a new beginning about your thoughts about money and how money flows and how it's balanced. If you think about this Two of Pentacles, this is, again, flexibility, but it's a balance card. Even in the traditional tarot, the guy's balanced in an awkward way. Here, she's almost juggling those flowers, those sunflowers, those pentacles. There goes a card. Hold on, I got to go get it. Well, of course we have to take it, because you can't just ignore it. It's about pride, looking deeper into your pride. Because if you've always experienced something, then you're going to say, because you rule history, well, it's always been that way. It's always been that way, blah, blah, blah. It might not be that way anymore. Now, the Neptune energy and the Saturn energy is in your 12th house. And the Aquarian energy is your 10th house. Azure is being joined by the mystery card. This is interesting, because Azure literally says, have patience, your desired outcome will happen, have patience and faith, and don't force it. And the mystery card is about choice. Then Rochelle, she's in the angel's advice. Now we're talking about releasing of emotional baggage and cleaning the house. But this to me is absolutely, the house represents the house of my mind. And my mind can contemplate the good and the bad of something, but where will I fall on the fence? Because Isaiah is asking you to give birth to new ideas, and this is a gestation period. And what is Taurus the best at? Growing things, literally. And I'm not talking about plants. I'm talking about anything. And then there's the deer. So interesting, because the deer and the stag are a couple. Two sides of the same species, male and female. So this is a receptive energy to me. It's also about being gentle with myself while I'm going through the process of this new birthing of my viewpoints. When we're looking at the Taurus energy, the Aries energy is the 12th house of my karmic choices. Now, depending upon, again, I prefer Placidus. So I think that really gives you a deeper layer of information as to where this transformation is happening. But more than anything, as Saturn and Neptune pass over this world axis for the third time and final time, this is where the potential reward comes. This is where the dissolution or the erosion of an old version of yourself that was full of nonsense of other people's limitations and restrictions and their viewpoint of what's right and what's wrong gets to go where it goes, somewhere else. And your part here is to allow yourself to move forward and know that you have the resources will flow. Everything will flow as you shift. I think this is great. And be a little gentle with yourself during it. Like, is this thought undermining me? Is worry undermining me? Or do I have faith that things are going to open up? I will say that I vacillate. My Taurus moon vacillates all the time because my Aries energy is mostly in the 12th house, and I feel very often invisible in my environment. People, I'm not a fancy girl. I don't try to fix my boobs big or inject my face, and that's the norm around here. So people perceive me as less than often, and I can respond to that in the less than way. So I think that's where the erosion and the self-deception comes in, and where that's the focus that's happening. All right, on to our Geminis, rising moon, sun, stellium. Ooh, 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 ooh. This is not an easy card. I'm going to say it right now. 10 of Swords. That's drama, and overkill. Let's see where we're going with that. Now that's the stellium. Oh my gosh, that's the stellium in Aquarius. That's your 9th house. Well, I want to offer this because it may be, the stellium is in a quincunx to Jupiter, and it may have a lot to do with not only worrying about expansion, but your beliefs, your belief in a bigger picture, and family beliefs. Let's see what the angels have to say about. You're right. This is a dramatic card. No drama. Change the channel on the drama. When I look at this card too, and a closer examination, most of the swords are up on the head area. So this could, and Gemini can overthink things, can go back and forth. Let's see where we're going. Victory in the form of Omega. Ray, the connection to your spirit, to the inner being. Grace and Antoinette, this is about not worrying about other people. This is about self-focus right now. And then Caressa is talking about a new chapter. Let's see where we're going. Further definition. Omega's being joined by the King. Ray's being joined by the Burden card. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Restriction card. And Caressa's being joined by the Death card. That's pretty significant, guys. I need to pull another card on the last. I need to get the tarot deck. Let me see. I gotta look. This is a little rough. Hold on. Sorry, I didn't pull. I only pulled 12 cards. You know what this is saying to me is there's victory over authority somewhere, and it may feel dramatic. And I want to offer it this way, because if somebody tells you, you go to an attorney and they tell you, your case isn't good, you don't have enough evidence, but inside you know something. You go to a doctor and they say, this is what's going to happen. And, and inside you say, that doesn't feel right. Because this is victory over some sort of authority, victory over some sort of, maybe even a universal law that you think, well, if they say it, it's going to happen. Because the burden right now is one of faith for my Geminis. You're in your head, you're going back and forth, you're listening to too much of material and information. Yeah. Well, I think that's the beauty of the Gemini that gathers the information about spirit, because I think this compassion card being upside down is literally saying to restrict other people's thoughts, even though they may love you, they may be giving you opinions. I just don't know if it's right. And that death card is saying you're going into a new chapter of something, and it's a 46. So it could very much mean you're going into a new way of thinking, of approaching something. And the 10 is a sword. The 10 of Swords is also a 1. So there's some sort of drama going on in how you're processing information, whether you're listening to authority and feeling like authority is going to be the ultimate, or whether something inside of you is saying, no, I shouldn't listen to that. So here we go for our clarification card for our Geminis on Caressa. And the Death card together. Saturn, the world. Something is not ending. When the world card is straight up, it's where the character, the Fool, is coming through all the major arcana. Here, there's something here that's not finished. So I want to offer this. If you've been in a situation, argument with another person, if you've been in a situation where there's been tension with your body, with your relationship body, this is not really specific to a genre as much as it's specific about how you should reply to it or respond to it. This is not an ending. This is a new beginning, and it may feel very dramatic right now, but part of that drama is because there's too much listening to outside sources rather than inside sources. And it may even be hard to hear your own soul or hear God's voice right now, or hear your divine being's voice right now, because there's so much input. So it also might say that part of this, if you have a Gemini stellium, because if you have a Gemini stellium, you have a trine going to Aquarius stellium right now. And that Aquarius stellium is telling to rebel against that which is limiting, that which is, not moving you towards your future, to take brave action, to be aware of your identity, your life force, your value, your voice, how it all works. And Pluto's in there to transform it, not take it under. Pluto's here to remove the old structures. And Saturn co-rules Aquarius. We forget about that. At least when we think about it, we don't think about it with the Aquarian future. That's the part of Saturn that's growing things and they're manifesting. It's the genius part of Saturn. So here, I think that this is if in any way you're closing the door on a situation, or you're thinking that it's just, I don't know, if you don't want that door closed, I don't know if it has to be closed, or if you want to close it, then there is something that's moving beyond this situation. So if for some reason it's a relationship and you're closing the door on a relationship because it's just not working, it doesn't mean you won't have another relationship or you won't have a better situation. See, exactly, CC Pups, exactly. People, sometimes I think it was Jerry Hicks who said, when you have a great idea, don't tell anybody, because they're just going to poo-poo all over it. Well-meaning people will poo-poo over everything. But yeah, this is a little bit rough. I'm not going to lie, a little bit rough. But I'm not kind of surprised, because this is a very, very powerhouse week with a lot of planets in rebellion, a lot of planets in taking no prisoners. I'm sick of the old ways. And many people will cling to the old ways, even if they're out of balance, because they feel familiar. All right, let's go on to our Cancers, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Your card is the Death card. Now, this is interesting in this deck because, do you see the horses? Jupiter is going through your sign right now. And this hovering almost feels like an alien spaceship to me, to be honest with you, but it's a hovering. It's like a cloud. So I'm wondering here if potentially your belief system is holding you in a space that you're going around in a circle. Let's see where we're going. Because that Jupiter retrograding and making that quincunx to the futuristic energy of Aquarius, and it's very hard. We're imprinted. When I was a little girl, they used to say, your personality is formed by the time you're 5 years old. That's Cancer. That's the Cancer energy. So there's something going on where a belief you have or beliefs you have had are begging for transformation because they're trapping you somehow. They're holding you hostage. And the thing about the horses is it's not a solid fence. They're mobile, so it must be something to do with beliefs. Yeah, that cold weather is pretty intense. You got to make sure your pipes are dripping too, because all sorts of weird stuff happens in cold weather that I thank God I don't have to live in. That sometimes feels like, I know it's true, this shall pass, but man, sometimes that just feels like, I don't know. I think as my Taurus moon, I think I just every once in a while need to blow some steam out before things can pass. All right, Cancer. Our first angel is Victorious Gemini. I'm sorry, Omega. I just had Omega with Gemini. That's why I said that. Then we have Yvonne, which is about vulnerability. We have Maya, which is about schooling and education. And then we have Merlina. Very interesting. I just love that little firefly name. It just brings, like, I don't know, it feels magical to me. Hi, Georgia. So good to see you in the room. Welcome, everybody. We are on Cancer right now. All right, there's change in the air, and what I believe is literally victory is going to come in the living and the willingness to be vulnerable to a new part of you that believes something just a little bit different than you believed before. Omega is being joined by the forgiveness card. Yvonne is being joined by the novice. Maya is being joined by the letting go card. And Merlina is being joined by the high priestess. So this death card is literally a transformation into a more authentic self. The moon rules Cancer. The moon is not just the mother. It's not just emotions. It is intuition. It is the impetus of, it is the being energy in the be, do, have of manifestation. So here, to me, Cancer is going through some sort of awareness exercise where you're realizing that there are stories that were told to you as a child or growing up that just aren't true anymore. And they've been holding you back. They've been holding you under. They've been, subconsciously, you don't even know they're there. Money doesn't grow on trees. Nobody wins the lottery. Well, not you, at least. I mean, there's only a whole show about winning the lottery. Not one, but two, maybe three. Who knows? Because what happens to me, the victory comes in the integration, not the abandonment of your beliefs, but rather just allowing for the evolution of them. Because Yvonne is asking Cancer to be vulnerable to a new beginning that's much more aligned to what it is you have been fostering within your own human experience, what you've been learning, what you've been teaching yourself through your awarenesses. The letting go card is not letting go, it's integration. Again, the forgiveness card and the letting go card make me laugh because I'm not hardwired to forgive things unless people can authentically and really apologize. In my family, they don't apologize. They go, that's who I am. Or they go, sorry. It doesn't work for my Taurus moon. And the letting go card, pretending it didn't happen, that doesn't work for my Aries or my Taurus moon. So to me, the only way that I can move forward is to integrate the experiences into tools that when someone acts like that, I remember that that's a warning. Ding, ding, ding. Pay attention to that because it doesn't vibe with you. If I have a friend who goes, I'm always late. Well, sorry, I'm always late. That's a blow off. So I start to be, okay, don't invest in that area. Because Merlina is literally saying if you're confused in any way, it's because you're not listening to your moon. You're not really listening to that inner knowing that actually might scare you because it's asking you to step away from something out of balance versus embracing it. I hate fake apologies. I'd rather have you tell me to fuck off. I might never speak to you again, but at least I could respect your authenticity. After Lucky died, it wasn't even 24 hours, and this woman who was just so incredibly rude to me called me and spent 40 minutes, making the most pathetic excuses for her inability to move her own story forward that were now her problem because events on the outside called for her to take action she'd been procrastinating. And I'm telling you, my Aries and my Taurus and my grief were just like, lady, I've listened to you for 40 minutes and not one ass apology has come out of your mouth. I'm done. And I was done. And I'm done. I'm done. All right, here we go, Leo. All right, 6 of Pentacles, but it's reversed. This is the law of attraction card in the tarot. This is where in the traditional tarot, you see the two characters and they're both on their knees begging for the benefactor to bestow upon them. Now we see one guy in a blue tunic and he's got the scales of justice And then the other guy is in an orange tunic, and he's getting the money. I interpret that as the guy in the orange tunic, the sacral chakra, is invested in what he wants and what he desires, where the guy who's in the blue tunic is in his head, blue being the air element. So the benefactor, without realizing it, is drawn to the person who's into their vision and their passion versus the person who's into their worry. Let's see where we're going with Leo, because you have an opposition from Pluto, and now that whole stellium is opposing your house. Oy, oy, oy. I just thought of that, how hard that might be. I feel like a whole army is against you. Ooh. You know, they say timing is everything. All right, here we go, Leo. Our first angel is Crystal. Have faith and hope. There's something better on the horizon. Then we have Desiree. Conditions aren't quite favorable right now. Indriel is the light worker, but it's interesting because for me, if I'm doing Leo, this is literally asking you to shine your light on the world. So, and you know your challenge is to come from your heart. And then Aurora is here saying you're flying high right now. Okay, something is going on where it looks like there's some sort of, well, let me finish the spread. Because I think that the Six of Pentacles reversed is asking you to watch your thoughts. What are you focusing in on? Because there's Crystal saying have faith and hope, right? Faith is something that you have to see with your heart, not with your eyes. And this could be that whole, you know, when we think about it, the Aries energy where we're seeing Neptune come into that 0 degree, this is birthing a whole new, that trine, that's a trine to you. So that's working in your favor. That's in your 9th house of your beliefs, of actually entrepreneurship as well. It's a wealth house. The crystal is saying, oh, crystal's being joined by the hawk. And then the hawk is an 11. So definitely somewhere Leo's point of attraction is on a problem, on the challenge, on the hill, and Spirit's asking you to pull up and to see and to look at the signs and the omens that are actually coming into your sphere, that are showing you in small ways that you're moving towards your goal. Desiree is being joined by the letting go card. Very interesting. I need to see a little more before I can interpret that. Indriel's joining the spider, or the spider is joining Indriel, and the love card is joining Aurora. All right. So I want to offer this because the letting go card to me and Desiree is like, Desiree is about conditions aren't favorable. The letting go card to me is not about letting things go. It's about taking enough distance from it to take some space. I can't let things go. I'm hardwired to remember them. Taurus is like an elephant memory. And when I look at the Leo energy right now, I almost feel like if for some reason you're giving up, because, you know, if the Six of Pentacles is upside down, then we're looking at the guy in the blue more than the guy in the orange. So the blue guy is you're in your head. Crystal would indicate that there's a faith that needs to be implemented. There are signs and omens coming your direction, but you can't see them right now because you're thinking something dramatic. Like, I just need to let this go. I just need to forget about it. And I think Indriel's indicating something different because there's something about relationship here. The spider is in a relationship card for me. It always has been. It's also kind of a real estate card for me. But here, I think it has to do with once the fly is in the web, it doesn't necessarily come out. So here, I think this is really thinking about how you're going about relationships, how you're maybe even a need to differentiate. Oh, that could be it. Because Leo, you've got this stellium opposing you that's sort of asking you, am I being impulsive? Mars. Am I thinking? Mercury. Am I valuing myself? Venus. The sun. Is my ego being triggered? The opposition is always feels like something very like you're opposing me. You're not in agreement with me. Because Aurora is saying you're flying high right now. Don't descend. And here's the love card. So I think that you may be having an internal reaction to something. You may be focusing in on something and feeling like, oh, maybe I can't do this anymore, or it's not feasible, or I don't have the energy for this battle anymore. But maybe it's not the battle you perceive it to be. And maybe it's just about a pause. Fire signs by nature need to move. They need movement. The performance on the stage is very rarely where people are just sitting, in the background. It is, by nature, the Leo energy is much more, I don't know if it's about waiting, it's about intention. What I think for my Leos, it's about being aware of what is my point of attraction. Because if you're ready, if you know your point of attraction, then moving ahead is a different situation. Because Crystal is saying something is coming. And here Aurora is agreeing. But you may find this week opposition in some way. And it may be letting go of someone else's opinion of what you want to endeavor. Well, there's a million people that are chefs. Why do you want to be a chef? Or why do you want to do this? Whatever the creativity is. So be mindful, because this ends well. And when I look at the love card, I'm not necessarily, Leo rules love. Leo rules romance in its most naive and most trusting phase. It's that young love that's excited and ready to go. And I think that's what Spirit is saying. Hold on a little bit. Wait till you have that feeling before you make any decisions about anything, before you let go of something, before you end something. Don't let that opposition make you have a blow up, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So the pause is not really about patience. It's more about, seeing the long-term ramifications of your actions. If I do this, I once broke up with this guy. Now I'm pretty sure that, now that I've lived 66 years on this planet, that, this wasn't a person, but I had a little bit of regret one time because I broke up with somebody to go back with somebody else. And that the person I broke up with was a very stable person. And, I thought to myself, did I miss an opportunity? And yeah, maybe I did, but I didn't miss the opportunity necessarily because I missed the opportunity, but it was also an inner knowing that I couldn't be what that person would have expected me to be. So I think there's a little contemplation going on for the Leo energy. Welcome to the sexy 60s. This is like, the happy time when we incorporate our wisdom. All right, are we ready for our Virgos? Let's see the card. Da-da-dum. The Six of Swords. This is an interesting card because it's about still being aware of some sort of challenge, loss, you're moving away from that, that we're moving to new territory, but at the same time, there's still a sense of sorrow. There's still a sense of loss attached to this card. Let's see where we're going. I also think the Six of Swords could be very Virgonian in the sense that the sixth house is Virgo. The swords are mental. So let's see where we're going. Well, the Patience card just flew out of the deck. Patience is never about like just holding your breath. It's about actually observation and discernment. It's about looking at something and watching the pattern. And who could better watch a pattern and analyze it than Virgo? Because the knowledge that you garnish from watching the pattern before you take action might be what moves you into a calmer place mentally. And so you don't feel so much sorrow about it. Yes, the timing is right for a new venture. Ariel is saying you're to connect with spirit, that there are experiences that you will have through prayer, through meditation, through study that will be signals that will tell you you're moving in the right direction. But challenge will be for you not to get too in your head. And when I say get too in your head, it's overly processing, going down the path of processing from a completely defensive nature. Well, if this bad thing happens, I'm going to do this. If that bad thing happens, you've got to start to plan from a more exhilarated place. Virgo, the Patience card is being joined by the Burden card. Okay, well, that sounds like fun. Isabella is being joined by the High Priestess. Ariel's being joined by the Grail Knight, and Yvonne is being joined by the Truth card. So this is a week where you will be feeling the burden of observation, because what will happen is you're going to stack up what isn't working. You're going to stack up all the evidence of what isn't working. And I know I just repeated myself, but I want to say that because I think I need to have an awareness of where I'm going. And this is not about giving into something else. It's about being aware where my mind is dominant over my intuition. Yes, Isabella is saying it's the timing is right for discernment through your intuitive body, through your emotional body, not through your critical body, not through the part of Virgo that says, this is how it's supposed to be done. This is how I, am. The enslavement of Virgo, the enslavement of the obligation of service instead of the joy of service, because Ariel is really asking you to seek the sacred within yourself through your divine meditations, through your deeper truth. And that's what I think the South Node has been doing as it goes through your first house, is really trying to, dissolve and blur all that perfectionism or all that need to know and have security and plan for things. See, the thing about Virgo is it plans for a future to protect itself from bad things happening. And that is a point of attraction versus planning for the future for good things to happen, because here's a truth card and the vulnerability card. And basically what Spirit is saying for Virgo is it's time to take a mental journey away from that which has brought you sorrow or brought you a sense of being tethered to a certain path, because now you get to move into a new path. And you get to move into that new path first with your awareness, your discernment of what it is that you want. I would like ease of money. I would like the flow of money. I would like to feel purposeful without feeling enslaved. I would like to be of service to others, but I also would like to be in service to myself and my own joys and happinesses, and allow that to be of service to others as well. So I think that there's going to be a deeper truth that's called upon for you this week, and to literally think about things from not necessarily an emotional place, but from a place of your soul's voice. All right, let's go on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I'm also randomly going to say this. I'm really curious. I feel like something's going to happen within aviation, rocket science, space science. Something's going to be announced this week, or something's going to happen. I don't know. Okay. For our Libras, the Hierophant upside down. This is a Taurus energy. The Hierophant is also about my belief system. And it's interesting because when I look at this deck, normally this guy feels very vulnerable to me, being shirtless, being and bowing down to this part of himself that he's one with that bull. He's, he sees the potential danger or risk. This character, this bull, is so much more powerful in theory, and yet the honoring of that seems to tame it in some way. In this deck, it has sort of a strength card, Leo energy, but here it's upside down. So we're going to look at how this is affecting our Libras. Let's hope that it's a good announcement. Yeah, one of innovation, flying cars. Could be flying cars. We don't know. Could be that, who knows? It could be that they're taking those electric cars and monitoring them better, or giving a 2.0 version. I've heard they're a little funky, but I don't know. There's just so much that Aquarius rules when it comes to the skies, lightning and aviation and, science that has to do with more than just astrology. Maybe they'll discover a planet. Yeah, the Jetsons, exactly. That's how I think of it. Okay. Oh, there we go. Daniel is the angel of marriage. He's also about the history of, thank you, DJ, about the history that you have in relationships. And with the Hierophant upside down, you could be having a little ding in your belief system in how you feel valued in relationships. And the opportunity or the obstacle is Opal, but she's reversed. Then we have Akasha, which is the spiritual teacher, reversed. And then we have Uriel, which represents working with anger and frustration. Okay, Libra. This is going to be interesting. And I can't help but think about how Saturn and Neptune's energy is squaring early Libra. It's also squaring the point in the Shapley cluster that is about, the supergalactic center that's all about seeing yourself as source energy. And Libra is not a self-oriented sign. It's what was I saying? It's an opposition. Saturn, Neptune, early Libra. I don't know if I said square. My brain went 3 places at once. Daniel's being joined by the wind or the earth fairy. Okay, that plays back to the Hierophant. We see that bull energy. Opal is being joined by the deer. Akasha is being joined by the new beginning, the novice. And then there's a butterfly joining. You know what I see here? I almost see initially something about Libra potentially not feeling a sense of value or voice in their relationships or who they're interacting with. And yet now we have this trine, right, from Libra to Aquarius and this energy. And there is the potential that you actually start to ground your opinion more succinctly, like you're willing to open your voice up by the time this is over, because you may be aware, I need to use my opinion. I need to speak up here. Because when I look at the earth fairy and I look at Daniel, there's a solid foundation to build upon somewhere within an interaction. Okay. Now we go to the deer. The deer can be about fear, a deer in the headlights. And Spirit is saying that you're not feeling potentially safe here, that potentially you could have a little trepidation about what you want to express because you have new ideas about things. You might have, it's kind of like the person who never believed in ghosts suddenly starts to believe in ghosts, or I was never interested in astrology, now I'm interested in astrology, and you're not sure how that's going to play out. Because in the angel's advice, the teacher card is here not to teach. You're not here to school anyone, to do anything, or to counsel anyone anymore. This is a new beginning focused on the self, focused on putting yourself as a viable, using your skills, being aware of your skills, being aware of your voice. Because now whatever frustration or anger that you may have been feeling, it feels as if it's dumbing down. And now we're seeing the transformation of that in the form of the butterfly. So what I think this is essentially saying is that somewhere that Libra is coming into some sort of awareness of how to express themselves, even when they feel that it would be a little bit confrontational or a little bit have a conflict to it. But now somewhere you have an opportunity to be aware of that this expression needs to be birthed, and it can be done with a new version of yourself, with a new awareness, and that can be demonstrated. So it almost feels like, if you think about the opposite of Aries is the me, 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 Libra is the we, and it takes 2 me's to make a we. So there's an opportunity, and through some sort of disruption, and I think that could be the Aquarius. Aquarius is your 4th or 5th house. I think it's your 5th house. Yeah. It's your 5th house. So there could be something that happens, creatively or through how you like to express yourself. And this disruption, weird thing gives you an opportunity to express yourself without anger and show more balance and more, I don't know, it feels like more individual strength to me. It does. It feels like a step up from where I've been. I don't need to teach you anything. I don't need to make you feel balanced. I just need to be me, the evolved version of me that gets to speak her truth without going into conflict. That's kind of how I would wrap it up. All right, let's move on to our Scorpios. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Everybody, this is a big the beginning of a new energy this next month. We're going to have Neptune at 0 degrees from the 26th of January through till about end of February 27th. And then it's going to move 1 degree, which doesn't seem significant, but yet at the same time, there'll be a subtle change in the vibration. So there is very much, this particular month is about the, like the egg, we're keeping the egg in the incubator, we're keeping it warm, we're keeping our eye on the prize of what we believe ourselves to be from the most authentic place. Because when people oftentimes, because I'm pretty friendly, people think that I'm their friend, but I'm not their friend. I'm just friendly. And that's really good distinction for me to know. The other thing that I say often to people is, I'm not a nice person. I'm not going to tell you something that's bullshit. I'm not going to ignore the booger hanging out of your nose. I'm going to be like, look, I can't look at that. Here's a Kleenex. And I think that's being a kind person. And I own being a kind person. That doesn't mean I don't have fire. And I own that fire too. So this is what's going on, people. Scorpio, we're going to walk away from that which is not authentic to my deeper truth. Now, Aquarius squares you. And I want to reiterate for the room, because there are more people in now than there were before. Let me tell you what the week, really quickly, how the planets are going to go. Pluto's going to stay at 3 degrees. Mars is going to move from 1 to 6 degrees. The sun is going to move from 5 to 11 degrees. Venus is going to move from 10 to 17 degrees. And Mercury is going to move from 8 to 18 degrees, all in Aquarius. This is really huge. This is a call to freedom, a call for liberation, a call for me to see myself from a bigger place. And I really think that Scorpio, having Pluto, squaring all of this, Pluto being the long-term planet and your ruling planet, something really authentic is being called forth. The beginning of true authenticity. And it could be all sorts of things, because it could be part of your own personality that's holding you hostage without you being aware of it. That deep psychological imprint that you react on versus take action on. Thank you. I hope the reading was helpful. These aren't easy times. We can't, and when I say they're not easy because they're constantly requiring us to step into a deeper version of ourselves, a bigger picture of what we're capable of, and in that be a co-creator. And when we're co-creators, we're also accountable for part of our experience. All right, Scorpio. Our first angel is Teresa, but she's reversed. Then there's Fiona. She's reversed. Layla is reversed. And Francesca is reversed. Okay, so Teresa is really about worrying about taking care of other people. So this would be a time to walk away from things like that. You are blocking something. You're over managing something, according to Fiona. You're not letting God and the angels in. You're not spending time meditating or focusing in on what's your deeper truth or what you want. And on some level, Francesca's interesting, because she's talking about blocking. When she's straight up, she's asking you what you're focusing in on, that negativity will block you. And this almost feels like, well, let me look. We have the horse joining. This is accepting help. This is about taking care of other people. Hold on. Fiona's being joined by the bear in history. The queen is joining Layla, and Merlin is joining Francesca. Somewhere, this is a call for discernment and to look at what the people, the environments that are draining you, that you no longer resonate with you. And you may start to consider walking away, and not because it's awful, but because it just is not really aligned to your future. Teresa's a card about worry, about taking care of other people, and the horse is about delegating authority. So here, I almost feel like I see the horse. I can no longer be your authority. I can't take care of you. I need to take care of myself, potentially, or to focus on myself. And this could potentially be even a job, because the bear is about history and Fiona is upside down. So somewhere your history is superseding your ability to look into the future. You may not feel like you're going to receive the things that you want, because your connection to spirit is waning in some way. And that faith is interesting, because the Eight of Cups to me is not, it's a new beginning of some kind, but it's a beginning of self-reflection. It's a spiritual journey where in the traditional Rider-Waite deck, you see that the cups are not really out of balance. They're just off center. And the character walks away from that to find something that is aligned. And I think that this is where you may become aware that you tend to go back to the story. And while the story may be true, does it serve your future? Because Merlin is asking for alchemy to bring something in. And that alchemy comes from pressure. It's the piece of coal that goes into that situation that becomes a multifaceted light being. So you're going to be called upon during this square that's going to happen, depending upon what's happening in the house of Scorpio for you. Because if you're a late degree Scorpio rising, it's your 12th house. A lot of your karmic habits that you don't even know you have will come into play somehow. So this looks like you're being called to really, delegate on some level the lack of conclusion potentially, or, people like to say, I'd like closure in this situation. Closure isn't always an option because the outside world provided it. Sometimes it's the inside world. And that takes you onto a new journey of your own co-creation. This should be an interesting period of time for y'all. For us all. I just think sometimes it's a little bit harder with some of the fixed signs because Scorpio in its highest vibration is extremely intuitive and powerful and can create really wonderful things. But when it gets stuck a little bit in that, the darker parts of Pluto and Mars, and especially when it's right, you can be right about the situation, but you can be wrong about how long you're going to let that situation affect you. How long you're going to let it dictate your experience in life. And that's where it gets out of balance. That's why within the Scorpio energy, at I believe it's 2 degrees of Scorpio, we see the Shapley attractor, where the planets surrounding that point are being called to release false attachments to things. And whatever that planet rules is where the false attachment is, somewhere in there. All right, Sagittarius. The Hanged Man, but the Hanged Man is upside down. So this is no longer sacrifice. There's no longer a need for a pause of some kind. The illumination has revealed itself. Let's see where we're going. While I'm shuffling, there's lots of new content that I've put out, new videos. I hope you'll check them out. I've got a video on Mars in Aquarius. And it does sort of cover some of this stellium, so check that out. Neptune entering Aries, re-entering. And of course, Saturn at 29 degrees. Because that's a real big transit. All right, Sagittarius, your first angel is Crystal. It's about faith and hope, but she's upside down. Then we have Mystique, and she's upside down. We have Athena, she's upside down. And then we have Vanessa. So there's clearly interesting, because the Hanged Man is about contemplation and reflection through sacrifice and through things turning upside down. When the card itself is upside down, it's more of a call for movement. But here, what it's looking like is that initially you're not feeling powerful. You're waning, your faith is waning in some way. Now, I want to offer this too, okay? Because as I've talked about the Placidus system, you have a 26 degree Scorpio rising. Your first house is mostly Sagittarius. And you should probably listen depending upon the planets in there, because you will present as Sagittarian, and your Scorpio energy will be the energy that's underneath. Because something here is going on with an internal, it looks to me like it's time to address your internal beliefs. And maybe that hasn't happened because you've been focused on other things. The Death card is here, joining Crystal. And Crystal, again, is upside down. So there's a lack of faith. Spirit is saying it's time to regain your faith. The Death card's also a 46, which is a new beginning. Mystique is upside down. And she's about charging ahead. And now the Cow is about nourishment and abundance, asking and receiving. So this is really about defining how you're taking your actions. Don't rush ahead. What are you actually asking for? I have a client who comes to me and really wants to be married and find their person. And yet during the process, they're like, well, I don't want to be alone until they show up. So is it okay for me to da 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 da? And I'm like, well, of course it is. But what is your true bottom line? Because if you're distracted and because there's a weird feeling about like not just charging on, but really looking at what are you asking for? What are you really want to receive? Are you somehow, because there's a lack of faith, are you dumbing that down? Because Athena says that you don't feel powerful right now in the angel's advice. And it's being joined by the horse, which is literally, I kind of feel like it's a Jupiterian card. It's also about connecting with spirit and delegating to spirit what it is I want. I want to, feel the flow of money. I want this number in my bank or higher. The faith card, is, do you make your decisions based on faith or fear? It looks like you're not discerning where you're going with that. And there's the partnership card. So literally your planet retrograde, which is making a quincunx, okay, a blind spot, a tension that I feel, but I don't know where it's exactly. I can't put my finger on it. All I know is it's annoying me. And I think that there's sort of this dynamic here where you, Sagittarius, get to kind of lay down the law about what you truly want, what you truly will make you happy. I think that people are so afraid to claim their happiness because they don't think it's big enough for everybody. It's not important enough. I would like to bear children and create a home. Oh, you're just a stay-at-home mom? Those are dream killers. So I think that this is about re-examining your true dreams, where you truly want expansion. And as your planet is getting into that sort of stationing period before it's going to move forward again, I think this is very, very important, because when it moves forward and ultimately moves into Leo, that is so like, let's just talk there. Leo is, if I'm remembering correctly off the top, it's got to be because Aries is your 5th house, so it's got to be your 9th house. That's a whole rewrite of your experience and what you're capable of, and that's your natural house. So I think it's about coming into partnership with your faith. I think this is about, really looking and seeing how much do I allow the universe to support my endeavors through signs and omens that come in, but they feel so trivial that, is it big enough? Is it really a sign? Because spirit is subtle. All right, onward and upward to our final sign of the day, our Capricorns, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay. Thanks everybody for your help today. Again, if you happen to note the timestamp for your particular sign and you wouldn't mind putting it in the comments, I would really appreciate it. Our final sign, Capricorn, the Wheel of Fortune is here. And it's interesting because this card is upside down. So something is not turning yet. Let's see where we're going. Thank you, J-Dog. No worries. I appreciate you all just for being here. All right, Capricorn, let's look and see what's going on here. Our first angel is Mystique, upside down. Athena is upside down. Teresa is upside down. And finally, Desiree is upside down. This is a week, I'm telling you. Well, Firefly, it looks like it's going to be a heck of a time this week as well. Something is not moving. Something is not charging forward. This is kind of that time where I think Capricorn is, I think of Capricorn as the ultimate builder. Hi, Jenny. You know how you lay the foundation, you pour the cement, and then you have to let it cure. Okay. And, you could let it cure for a certain amount of time and it's possible to build on it. But if you let it cure just a little bit longer, then you're really going to have a strong foundation. That might be what's going on here. Mystique and the restriction card. Mystique is upside down. So there's definitely a lack of movement. Okay. Athena is being joined by the novice. So I want to say Athena is about asserting yourself. It's about power. And the novice is about a new beginning. Athena's upside down. So this is about asserting your power in a new way. I know it's the last day of the Neptune in Pisces. It's big, 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 big. And this next month is very big. It's all about the ignition, the birth of the new peaceful warrior. And I mean, that's just, that's at the 0 degree. That's that, because we're having intensity and then we're building upon that. So this is the very newest, most uncomfortable, most raw. Think of a baby coming out of the womb and how warm the womb is, and then how cold it is when you get out. Teresa is upside down, worrying about other people. Now the fire fairy is here straight up. And in the final position for Capricorn is the truth. Okay. I think for my Capricorns that you have still been going through this sort of rooting in of a new version of you, of a new thing that you want to build. We look at, as this is Capricorn rising is the focus. So the second house is Aquarius. In that stellium, there's like a bit of a feeling of a revolution about your skills, about what you're wanting to build. And I want to offer this because what you may find inadvertently, don't be annoyed at yourself, is that you've been building something that you don't want to build anymore. Or you want to build a different version of it. And you don't have to stick to what has been happening, but you get to recalibrate, you get to ruminate, you get to think about what it is. Because when I look at the Wheel of Fortune is upside down. So something is not necessarily moving the direction you want it to go. I feel like Mystique being upside down is Spirit saying, stop. The restriction card is here. Stop charging ahead. Look at what you're doing. What are you building on? Then we have the novice, which is a new beginning, but it's not stable. And then this being safe to be powerful is upside down. It makes me feel like I'm operating on Capricorn instinct versus Capricorn intention. Because I might still inadvertently be worrying about what other people think, about my leadership, about what I want. Because the fire fairy is about optimism. It's about passion. And Capricorn isn't really necessarily used to coming from passion. It's used to coming from duty and responsibility and leadership. Now we have Aquarius co-ruled by Saturn. So Saturn does have a rebellious streak. But I think what's happening here is for my Capricorns is I need to slow it down so I can get down to my deeper truth. Years ago, I bought this big brown Barcalounger. And, I had these delusional thoughts that at some point I would be good enough for my family to actually accept me and love me. That was not going to happen. They sit, judge, and jury, proudly wearing their robes and hitting their gavels on my life. And when I finally realized they're not going to come to my house, because I bought that chair thinking, oh, but my brother-in-law would like to sit in this Barcalounger with his feet up. Maybe my sister will be with me on the couch having a beer. No. And I got rid of that big ass Barcalounger because it wasn't my taste. It wasn't what I wanted. And it took me a long time to let go of that connection and that history and feeling like there was any sort of cheese up that tube. So Capricorn, you're going through a time when you're going to look through what really is viable and sustainable for what I want, not from where I've been dutiful and responsible, but from what represents good leadership, because I let my wheel turn. I let myself evolve. I let myself receive, and not for the audience, but for the interior joy of creation, of feeling abundant. Because this is a week where your deeper truth is being asked to be birthed. Wow. Okay. I did it. And I did it in an hour and a half. Look at that. It's pretty cool. All right, everybody. I'm going to do a little plug. I put out a lot of videos the last couple of weeks. We've got Saturn at 29 degrees, which I really think y'all should watch. We've got the Neptune video, Neptune re-entering Aries. We've got Mars and Aquarius, which is another one where I think with this stellium going on, that would be helpful to watch that. And I'm going to be doing some more videos because I'm liking the little adjustments I'm doing. Oh, we're so wired to please them. Well, it starts when you're a baby. Oh, good baby doesn't cry. That means a good baby doesn't say when it's in discomfort. I remember the love of my life. When he was a baby, he was colicky. And as a child, all they did was like reference back that he was a colicky baby, like he could do something about it, right? And they referenced it in annoyance. Oh, you're a colicky baby. You kept me up. And I think to myself, that's so subconsciously damaging. You can't do anything about that. So it is our opportunity at this point in our evolution to recognize that those people just perpetrated the same unconscious things that people had perpetrated on them. And while they may not feel that came across critical, we have to understand that when we point out things that others have no power over, like I have brown eyes instead of blue eyes. I'm a girl instead of a boy. These kind of things, like you can't be villainized for them. So you have to take them and own them for yourself and kind of flick off the other stuff. All right. I'm going to head out. Have a Sunday afternoon. I've got lots of things on the books today. So I appreciate you all being here. I really do. Again, prayers for Small Wildflowers. She's had a really, really hard week. And I do think that it's not just a physically hard week, but potentially a chance for us to support her through prayer emotionally, So I just want to say that. And I love you all, and I'll see you next week. And when I see you next, Neptune will never be in Aries and Pisces again in our lifetime. And it really is going to birth a new world. So think back what was going on in March 2025, guys, because that's we could start to see little bits of that. I can never remember what's happening from one thing to the next, but if I remember correctly, in March of 2025 was when the deconstruction of my home started to take place, and I was about to go through a real challenging period of erosion. But this time around, my intention is the rebuild from a creative space with my heart attached to my deeper truth. So there we go. All right, guys, sending lots of love to you. Hello, Shannon. Welcome to the room. I'm so glad you were here. And we're going to close for today. Please like, please subscribe, please share, and we'll do all that other good stuff. See you next week. Saying prayers for your mom. Just call me C. I will. I'm hoping that we walk through these next few chapters of humanity and the history that we're creating with a sense of ease and harmony, because we're more connected to the deeper truth than we are the illusion outside of us. Oh, she passed in September. I'm so sorry. I forgot. All right. Prayers and love to you all, and I will see you next week, 11 a.m. Pacific. Bye-bye.